Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now it's time for a discussion of the night. We're talking about youth and politics. Now, our tonight interviews is youth and politics. Like I've said, how are the youth represented in the Kenyan political arena? Do they feel seen? I mean, when it comes to participation and decision making in the country. Our guest this evening is a lawyer as well as a youth leader. Let's get his perspective on the youth's representation in Kenyan politics. So welcome to Studio Wakili.
Asante.
Can you introduce yourself so that maybe, at least, so that we can know you better?
Thank you for hosting me. My name is Evans Owino Wanyande.
Yeah.
Because I saw the poster you're written Wanyande. It is still a name, I accept. So I'm Evans Owino. I'm a certified paralegal.
Yeah.
I'm also a senior LLB student at Daystar University.
Yeah.
I'm a youth leader, a digital political strategist, and also I am a student leader at Daystar University.
Perfect, perfect. That's wonderful. Now, let's dive into this discussion, Evans. Young people, political participation and decision-making, is there proper representation, and how important is the youth's participation? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we all agree that the youth in Kenya form 75% of the total population.
Yeah.
This simply means that if you are to be fair to the youth in Kenya, then the representation in the National Assembly, the representation in the Senate, and even the representation of the youth in appointive positions ought to be the highest, if we were to be fair. So in maybe answering that question, I would say that youth are still not yet represented as it is supposed to be, because like for example in the current cabinet, there's no youth representation in the current cabinet by the president, President William Ruto. Also, when you look at the list of the PSS that were recently appointed, I think we only have three youths, three PSS who can be labeled as youths in the country. So I'm not satisfied with the kind of representation, but also it raises the question of why is it that we form the largest population, and also we form the largest population of voters, and the youth is not anywhere to be seen in the political table or in the leadership tables.
Yeah.
So it is something that we really need to look into and think for ourselves as youths. Then why is it that as the youth we are not electing our own?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in regards to that, how would you describe the political system in Kenya in regards to youth involvement? Still on that, how would you describe this political system?
We must understand that these things did not come yesterday or even today or the day before yesterday. These things started a long time ago. I remember in 1982, the YK 92 that was led by the former Assistant Minister, Cyrus Jirongo. Now in 1992, youths were being used to promote ethnopolitical activities during politics. And the YK 92 was used in 1992 by the then president, President Moi, and the then government, the KANU government, to try and bring the youth and also to be a resistant movement to fight those who are pro-constitutional change by then. So this already tells you where the youth has been put in the Kenyan politics, and this continued in 1997, the Youth for KANU, I think. And also we've had factions of the youths in different electioneering periods up to now, where the youth is only used to kind of fight for the political elites. And I think that kind of nature, that is what we have to fight as youths in this country, and not allowed to be used. And I can describe that as the political space for the youth in Kenya right now. The youth are being used to form ethnopolitical resistant movements, which is not the thing that we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be in the ballot. We are supposed to be the one participating directly in politics, and that is not the case.
Right, we will come to that later on in our interview, that movement that you're talking about. So what would you say are some of the challenges you are facing as the youth in regards to youth participation in politics and governance in the country?
Some of the challenges we are facing as the youth in regards to governance in Kenya, one of them is lack of empowerment. I think the space for the youth in Kenyan politics is so pathetic, and I'm sorry to say that. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, and I'll explain it with a scenario. When a youth wants to vie for, let's say, an MP position, and there's someone who's been there for the past 10 years or 15, then the youth is going to be told, step down in a way to try to insinuate that the older person show some respect for the elder, for your elders. So I think that in itself describes the kind of challenges the youth are going through in matters politics or governance in the country. Again, things to do with lack of empowerment. Youth in the previous general elections, many youths were alluded to the fact that they are supposed to vie for the MCA position. So you find that there are some positions, or let's say seats, that are designated for certain people or certain age group, and they tend to say that the youth cannot manage such political positions. But that is not true. We have leaders who are elected in their youthful ages. One of them is Sakaja, when he was the SG for the Jubilee Party, and then then became the senator when he was still a youth. We have people like Ndidi Nyoro who are really working for their people. And we have to really give the youth the kind of space they desire in politics in this country for us to count on the youth.
Right. Now, you have mentioned about the 2022 general election, and you have also said that the youth make 75% of the Kenyan population, right? Now, that election recorded a lower youth turnout. What could have constituted this lack of interest in Kenyan youth to exercise their democratic right to vote?
I'll be very, very frank and specific. And I have to say that one of the reasons why there was a very low turnout for the youth in the previous or the just concluded general elections, it was because one of them is hunger. and I want to be very clear and specific, because you cannot tell someone who has not eaten since morning to go and vote.
So do you advocate for handouts?
I don't advocate for handouts, but I advocate for good policies by the government to ensure that such things are curbed when they are still not rampant. For example, right now in Kenya, there's a lot of hunger. And and maybe someone stays here and the polling station is somewhere in town. You don't expect that person to go and vote. So one of them, to be really specific, is hunger. The second one is lost hope. Youths in this country have lost hope. They don't know what is going to happen next. So you cannot tell a person who has built a lot of the youth in the country right now have built a lot of narrative in their heads or in their minds that even if we go to vote, we are still going to get the same leaders. Also, the issue to do with the deep state and system. Also, even if I go to vote, it is already predetermined. So why should I go and vote? I think those are the things that really caused whatever happened, the low turnout in the general elections. Yes.
Now, as a youth leader, what are you trying to put in place to ensure that these gaps are filled when it comes to voting and the interest in the nation's politics? Let's keep in mind that 5 years is not so far. We will be going back to the ballots in the next 5 years, 2027. So what are you trying to do to fill in these gaps?
I think the first thing that is very prudent to do is the obvious one, public awareness. The youth in the country should be educated on the importance of voting, on the importance of, and they need to be told again that you are the largest population. If you wanted to rule this country, your time is now. And I always say this. I hear many youth out there. They say things to do with, I'm not interested in politics. Politics a dirty game. I don't know. But you cannot say that you are the future leader when right now today you are saying that you cannot participate in politics. We are the future leader, so you have to be an active participant in politics yet today. So creation of public awareness by the government or the affected people to try and explain to these youth that, look, there's importance in voting. There's importance in driving your own agenda. And for the record, people or the leaders you have elected in both the National Assembly and the Senate, these people, many of them are not youth. So they actually they don't have first-hand experience of what the youth of this country need. So if at all, if we had leaders or youthful leaders in those houses, then in terms of policy making, because we all understand that youth are very creative, they are very energetic, they are very entrepreneurial in nature. So if we can have youthful leaders, leaders who are who know what actually befits the youth, then I think we are going to solve the biggest challenge of youth in leadership. And policies that are going to help our youth are going to be passed, and we are going to realize that. I'll give an example of Johnson Sakaja, the governor Nairobi. So we had a lot of challenges that were affecting the youth in Nairobi, and one of them is on entrepreneurship. You find before you could find that starting a business in Nairobi with a capital of 100,000 was very impossible, because by the time you are finishing to pay for those licenses, you will have exhausted the 100,000 on the licenses, leave alone the product that you're planning, or the service you're planning to render. So with Sakaja being a youthful leader, even if he has crossed that bracket of a youth, but being a youthful leader and understanding what really the youth are going through, he was able to actually merge all the licenses, and right now the youth in Nairobi can now start their businesses, and they can now run their businesses under one license. Those are some of the policies we are talking about.
Now, in President William Ruto's manifesto, before he got into office, he had a really great vision for the youth, and that included creation of jobs as well as formulating policies to better the lives of the youth in Kenya in his first now 100 days in office. Do you feel the government has delivered its promises now as a youth leader?
As a youth leader, I'd say that the government has constantly been telling us to be patient. And I think I'll support that. We need to be patient because everything is progressive in nature. Even our own constitution is very progressive. It provides that the government is supposed to care for the citizens' health.
So there's hope?
And that still means that if I get sick, it is the government to treat me. But that is not the case. The case is the spirit of our constitution is progressive. I tend to believe that even the Kenya Kwanza government, it is progressive in nature, and whatever, let us wait and see what they are going to offer in matters empowering the youth and also in delivering their manifesto.
Now, what should the government do to make the youth feel seen in the Kenyan political space?
I think it still brings us back to empowerment. The government needs to create platforms for the youth to ensure empowerment. These platforms are supposed to inform the youth on what they really need to do for them to access those political or leadership positions. Another one is policy making. I don't know the position of the current government, but in the previous government, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, we had things to do with affordable housing, manufacturing, forming part of the Big Four agenda. But I've heard the current president, His Excellency William Ruto, and he's been so vocal on issues to do with continuing the Big Four agenda. So if the government can continue with such projects, these are projects that directly employ the youth. These are projects that directly ensure that the youth are protected in terms of job creation and everything. So the government should simply formulate policies that are going to be youth-friendly, that are going to be to develop whatever, to develop the youth of this country. And also, it is very obvious, the obvious thing that the government should do is to allow the youth and give the youth a chance in their appointive positions, and give them a chance in terms of tenders, in terms of giving just opportunities for the youth. We have AGPO. AGPO on paper is a very constructive thing for the youth, or a very constructive agenda or policy for the youth. But on the ground, it is totally different. On the ground, people with disability, the youth and women are not given those opportunities. If you go to their website right now, the AGPO website, you'll find that the tenders that have been floated there, they date back to 2021. This simply tells you that these are tenders that have been given, and you will ask yourself, since 2021, hasn't there been a tender that a youth, a woman, or a person living with disability can apply since 2021? So some of these things, they are there, very good policies, but implementation has been a headache, and I don't know why. But it is a plea to the government again that let us work and let us make policies that are going to support the youth.
Yeah. Now, as we wind up, Evans, as the new leader, Raila Odinga has unveiled a youth resistance movement. It is dubbed Movement for Defense of Democracy. What's your take on this movement as a leader? And you're also a lawyer, so maybe the importance of this movement and implications to the youth, if any.
Our constitution provides for the freedom of association.
Yeah.
That is very, very clear. And also, there are limitations as to every freedom. That is in Article 24. So, Article 24 provides for the limitations of every right and freedom. So, I think if the movement is for a good cause, as they are trying to portray it, then it is fine, and we fully support. But again, I want to pose a simple question. When the Azimio leader, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, was unveiling his cabinet sometime last year at KICC, I didn't see any youth in that list. But now, for the NRM, for the MDD, I'm seeing it is fully made of the youth. Then what is he trying to portray? We could see people like Honorable Joho being the CS Land, I don't know, and the names that have been in the political arena since time immemorial. So I don't support it in that way. I was expecting someone like Joho, someone like Junet to be the chair of that MDD or to be on the front line. But I'm only seeing the youths. And this is something we are trying to talk about and trying to hide the elite political class, to desist from. They need to desist from using the youth in the negative angle of politics, but try to find something constructive that they are going to involve the youth in a constructive manner in matters politics and leadership and the governance of this country.
Yeah.
So if it is for a good cause, then it is fine. But again, I really want to urge the former Prime Minister to give the current president and the current administration time to implement their manifesto for Kenyans to realize whatever they have for us in store.
All right, perfect. We have now come to the end of our discussion tonight. Thank you so much, Evans, for making time for us tonight. Let's continue with our broadcast from this point.